For nearly 4 years, both British and Soviet forces launched numerous air and naval attacks to eliminate this threat, but over 20 missions proved unsuccessful. You heard it right, 20 missions failed. This seemingly invincible behemoth, the German battleship Tirpitz, was a thorn in the side of the Allies. Imagine a ship so heavily armored that it could shrug off countless attacks. That was the Tirpitz, a terrifying symbol of German naval might. But what made this battleship so difficult to destroy? We'll crack the code. The German battleship Tirpitz, entering service in 1941, became a major headache for the Allies during World War II. Though only slightly heavier than its sister ship Bismarck, it was the largest warship ever built by a European nation at the time. The Tirpitz's mission was to dominate the Baltic Sea and prevent Allied merchant ships from reaching the Soviet Union with supplies. In November 1944, the British committed to a large-scale operation involving over 100 aircraft to sink the Tirpitz permanently. Even in its final moments, the battleship fiercely resisted its demise. German military expansion was already underway when Hitler took power in the 1930s. He openly supported this rearmament effort, including the revival of the Navy, the Kriegsmarine. The initial goal was to build a smaller but effective force to rival the dominant British and French fleets. Despite the seeming unlikelihood, German industry, backed by the Third Reich, built everything from scratch. The massive Bismarck-class battleships were a direct response to France's Resolute-class battleships ordered in 1935. Despite the 1922 Washington Naval Treaty, signed by major powers after World War I to limit naval expansion, the agreement proved ineffective. The treaty established tonnage limitations for warships, but these were repeatedly adjusted to suit the interests of the victorious Allied nations. This fueled suspicion and ultimately undermined the treaty's effectiveness. The Bismarck class, including the Tirpitz, initially adhered to the 35,000-ton limit set by the treaty. However, later modifications pushed them beyond this limit. When Japan left the treaty in 1937, the tonnage limit was raised to 45,000 tons, prompting a global arms race as countries modified their existing warships. In April 1939, Hitler introduced Admiral Erich Raeder, head of the Kriegsmarine, to the military staff during a grand ceremony aboard the battleship Scharnhorst. This event also unveiled the newly completed Tirpitz, Europe's heaviest and largest battleship. The ship was named after Grand Admiral Alfred von Tirpitz, who served in the Kaiser's Navy during World War I. The ceremony aboard the Scharnhorst wasn't just about showcasing the Tirpitz, it was also the stage for Hitler to unveil Plan Z, his ambitious vision for German naval supremacy. This plan aimed to create a fleet capable of rivaling the British and French navies. Hitler and Admiral Raeder envisioned a massive force: 10 battleships, 4 aircraft carriers, 15 pocket battleships, a staggering 250 U-boats, and over 100 destroyers and cruisers. While impressive on paper, Plan Z was a long-term strategy. Experts estimated it wouldn't be complete until 1948. Despite this, Hitler was enthusiastic. Hitler's confidence proved misplaced. He didn't anticipate Britain and France declaring war on Germany after the annexation of Poland in September 1939. The Kriegsmarine was far from prepared for a significant conflict. At the war's outset, the Kriegsmarine lacked the strength to compete head-on with Allied fleets. Admiral Raeder had only 2 15-inch gun battleships, the Bismarck and Tirpitz, 3 11-inch gun pocket battleships, a handful of cruisers, and a force of destroyers and U-boats. Despite being outmatched, the Kriegsmarine wouldn't go down without a fight. The battleships Bismarck and Tirpitz, though not part of a fully realized Plan Z, would become symbols of German naval defiance during World War II. The Tirpitz, a formidable battleship launched in 1941, possessed impressive characteristics. It weighed a staggering 42,900 tons when empty, displacing even more, 52,600 tons at full load. Stretching 251 meters long and 36 meters wide, it cut a powerful figure on the waves. Its draft, the distance below the waterline, was approximately 10.5 meters. The Tirpitz was propelled by a mighty Brown, Bovary & C geared steam turbine system, generating a staggering 160,793 horsepower. This system, fueled by 12 oil-fired Wagner superheated boilers, drove 3 screws and pushed the battleship to an average top speed of nearly 31 knots, almost 57 kilometers per hour. It boasted a fearsome armament. Its main battery consisted of 8 impressive 15-inch guns housed in 4 heavily armored turrets: Anton, Bruno, Caesar, and Dora. Each weapon had a remarkable range of 35 kilometers. These turrets were shielded by formidable armor, with 360 millimeters of steel at the front and 220 millimeters on the sides. Beyond its main guns, the Tirpitz packed a punch with secondary armament. This included 12 5.9-inch guns in 6 double turrets, 16 4.1-inch guns, and a substantial anti-aircraft battery. Initially equipped with 28 37mm and 20mm anti-aircraft guns, this defense was later bolstered to a total of 58 guns. It also boasted versatility. It carried 4 Arado R-196 seaplanes for reconnaissance missions and anti-submarine warfare. It was later upgraded to include 8 53.3cm torpedoes and 2 quadruple mounts, one on each side of the ship. The Tirpitz wasn't just about firepower, it was heavily armored to withstand enemy attacks. Its central belt boasted a thickness of 320mm of steel, providing a crucial layer of defense. This was further supplemented by 2 armored decks, one 50mm thick and another 100mm thick. Despite its formidable design, the Tirpitz wasn't invincible. Even before its official commissioning in February 1941, the Royal Navy attempted to sink it during sea trials in the Baltic Sea. However, their attack proved unsuccessful, highlighting the battleship's resilience. The sinking of the Bismarck in May 1941 forced the Kriegsmarine to adopt a more cautious strategy for the Tirpitz. Unlike its ill-fated sister ship, the Tirpitz primarily operated in Norwegian waters, hugging the coastline where German shore batteries and airfields could provide cover during combat. In January 1942, the Tirpitz set sail for the Norwegian fjords with a crew of nearly 2,000 sailors and 100 officers, a formidable force ready to defend the battleship. Unfortunately for the Germans, British efforts to crack the Enigma code had been successful. This intelligence coup allowed the British to track the Tirpitz's movements, posing a constant threat. February 1942 saw the Tirpitz's first taste of combat. It participated in a deceptive maneuver aimed at luring British ships out of the English Channel, creating a safe passage for the German fleet to return to port. However, this operation was just a prelude to the many challenges ahead. The Royal Air Force relentlessly pursued the Tirpitz in March 1942, launching a series of bombing raids. While unsuccessful in damaging the battleship, these attacks resulted in significant losses for the RAF, with over 10 British aircraft shot down compared to only 3 German losses. Faced with the limitations of conventional bombing raids, the British opted for a more daring approach. Combat divers were sent to attach limpet mines, Mk1 Chariot torpedoes, to the Tirpitz's hull. Unfortunately, the attempt failed as the torpedoes detached from their tow lines before reaching their target. On September 7, 1943, the Tirpitz led a task force of 9 destroyers in Operation Sicilian. Their objective was to attack the Allied naval base in Spitsbergen, Norway, and destroy the weather stations crucial for Allied operations. Operation Sicilian in September 1943 marked the only time the Tirpitz fired its main battery. 50 shells pounded the enemy installations in Spitsbergen, leaving them in ruins. German forces then captured the area, and the Tirpitz crew received Iron Crosses in recognition of their role. However, the Tirpitz's success could have been more lived. Weeks later, the British retaliated with a daring X-craft mini-submarine attack. While only 3 of the 10 X-craft managed to penetrate the battleship's defenses, they were all destroyed by depth charges. Despite this setback, 2 X-craft damaged one of the Tirpitz's 15-inch guns, an oil tank, and 2 Arado seaplanes. Though flooding was controlled, the Tirpitz had to limp back to Norway for repairs. Upon returning to service in April 1944, the Tirpitz faced another major challenge. Over 100 British aircraft launched a fierce attack, scoring 15 hits. This onslaught cost 4 British planes, but the damage was significant. Around 500 sailors perished, and the battleship's superstructure suffered substantial damage. Undeterred, the British continued air raids throughout June, but the Tirpitz remained afloat. The constant threat posed by the Tirpitz finally prompted the British Admiralty to take a decisive step. They tasked Bomber Command with eliminating the German behemoth once and for all. Their weapon of choice, the powerful new 12,000-pound Tallboy bomb, proven effective against concrete bunkers and capable of piercing reinforced steel. In September 1944, 25 Lancaster bombers armed with Tallboy bombs departed from a Soviet base to attack the Tirpitz. One bomb struck the bow, penetrating the deck and keel. While the battleship flooded and sustained damage, it miraculously remained afloat. Following the September 1944 attack with Tallboy bombs, Bomber Command couldn't believe the Tirpitz remained afloat. The battleship seemed almost invincible. A further attack on September 29th only damaged the rudder and shaft, forcing the Germans to surround the ship with a sandbank in Tromsø, Norway, to prevent capsizing. Despite the damage, the Tirpitz crew braced themselves for another inevitable British assault. On November 12, 1944, Operation Catechism was launched. 30 Lancaster bombers led by wing commanders J.B. Willis and L.A. Williams took off from Scotland on a mission to finally sink the Tirpitz. Flying below radar detection, they descended upon the battleship only when within sight. The German crew scrambled to contact nearby Luftwaffe bases for air support, but none materialized. The Tirpitz's anti-aircraft batteries and surrounding shore guns opened fire in a desperate attempt to repel the attackers. But their efforts were in vain. 2 Tallboy bombs pierced the deck, triggering a massive explosion. A towering plume of smoke reaching 100 meters high signaled the detonation of the battleship's ammunition stores. This fatal blow finally sealed the fate of the Beast of the Seven Seas. Within 10 minutes, the Tirpitz had listed heavily to its port side, prompting a frantic evacuation. Tragedy struck as many sailors attempting to reach the shore were caught in debris from a 15-inch gun turret explosion. Out of a crew of approximately 1,200, only 82 survived. Rescue teams saved others trapped inside the hull before it slipped beneath the waves. The sinking of the Tirpitz marked the culmination of over 20 British attempts to destroy the battleship. A joint Norwegian-German salvage operation began in 1948, a daunting task that took nearly a decade to complete. Were you amazed by this unsinkable beast? Please share your thoughts in the comment section below. Remember to explore our other videos featuring peculiar historical events.